Guess
Oh,
we got somebody's waiting. Oh, they just left. Guess we better go on. We had two people waiting and then they left.
well,
But
get going. And no, it wasn't me.
okay, well, you're on live now.
That's exciting.
Absolutely. So, welcome to the Digital Calm. It's our first YouTube session. We're doing our first YouTube live. We wanted to try this platform out because, hey, everybody's on YouTube, isn't it? It seems like a place to be hanging out. But we thought we'd do it. Well, one, we're experimenting with some different platforms. So we wanted to check out YouTube Live and see what it was like for hosting the Digital Calm. So I see there's a few people that checked in. You can say hello in the chat, would be great. And just say hi. Tonight we're going to have a little bit of a free talk on the what's important about the internet, or the role of the internet or in our lives, and how it impacts or doesn't impact our lives. And is it the monster that a lot of people what media kind of builds it up to be? Is it the savior of all humanity? Is it, somewhere in between, I guess is the question. Yeah. So anyway, I'm Clay Lowe, Soul Cruiser. Some of you might know me by, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host who always misses her cue.
Because I don't take it as an introduction. I just always think you're going to say my wonderful co-host, Naomi Martel Bundock.
No.
And so I don't realize that it's a cue. And I know we've been doing this for over a year. You'd think I'd have picked up on that by now.
Oh, you think so? You would have thought so, absolutely. That you would know that you have to introduce yourself and say.
Absolutely, especially when we're on a new platform. And I've got to say, I'm very excited to be on YouTube. I love YouTube. I spend most of my life on YouTube, so I am really excited to be here and doing the show on YouTube itself.
Yay, there you go. So you got your wish.
I did, exactly.
Your wish is my command. So here we are. I know it's been over a year and you've been thinking about somehow getting doing some YouTube stuff. So traditionally I'm always asking you the question, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been a busy
since
girl.
the last Digital Calm.
Yeah, we've and again, this one always catches me by surprise, normally because I've been working in the day and then I kind of come home and I've got tea to make and dog to walk and children to see to and a husband to pass like a ship in the night before we podcast. And that's why I can never remember what I've been up to. But we had a lovely weekend. My husband and I spent a lot of time just being together, doing those little things that kind of never get done at any other time. What about you? What have you been up to?
Cool. I wasn't done with my question, but I'll tell you what I've been up to. I've been up to the usual stuff of exploring various different things. I don't think I've done anything specific. I mean, we've been out camping and all that kind of jazz, but that might have been last week's show, so I don't remember if that was that. So this weekend it was kind of just an end bit, but I've been exploring any number of things this week. In fact, a book I've been anticipating coming has arrived today.
So what is it? What is it? Writer of modern life.
Baudelaire, one of my favorite poets, 1850-ish kind of dude, but it talks about post-modernism and the social poet, which of course appeals to me because, I'm a social hound. So that kind of rhetoric works. And I've also been revisiting this book, if you can see that. So
Why poetry? Well, a great question by Matthews. What was that? Zapruder?
Yeah. So
it is a great question. Tell us, Clay, why poetry?
Actually, it's about language, and I know you like language and the like there, and the way that I think it bypasses the critical filter, basically, and accesses a different part of our brain than sort of logic and reason. Same like music. Music goes directly to the soul, passes the intellect, and the sort of rational mind, and kind of hits at something a little bit more primordial to us, spiritually, anyway.
So it's a little bit like cryptic versus concise crosswords, but in reverse.
Not particularly.
I just thought I'd throw that one in there.
Yeah, no, because I mean, in fact, that's the very first thing that he addresses is the fact that people think that poetry is cryptic. And so most people have this connection with poetry from school, and, it's all cryptic, and you have to have read 10,000 books to understand what the poet said and all that sort of thing. So most people, they'll balk at poetry. Where it's anything, there are some poets that are intellectual poets, just like there are philosophers who use lots of big words and stuff because they want to be academic and scholarly and all of that. And then there are, philosophers who are more homegrown, grassroots, and the same goes with poetry as well. So, yeah, absolutely. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
No,
today.
It's not. So I thought we were talking about what we really think the internet is about.
Yeah.
And you've expanded that by chucking in quite a few things we're going to explore.
Yeah, because I think it's a big, I don't know, I was just sat down on Saturday, I guess it was, or whenever I texted you that question about the internet, and what sparked it off is because if you go on to social media now, so a lot of people think that social media is the internet, which it isn't. And a lot of people think a lot of things about that platform, the World Wide Web. It's just a part of the internet. It's not the whole of the internet. And when you go on to social media, which is where everybody kind of goes to, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and as I was looking up and down those feeds, particularly on, all the platforms really, it dawned on me that it's moved from where it was in the beginning, in terms of how people. So it's dominated lots by marketing and marketeers and people, telling you how to live a better life or showing pictures of how great their vacation thing is and the restaurant they're eating. So there's a lot of stuff about that creates this this FOMO. You're missing out. I'm here, I'm doing this, or this. You're missing this, or if you're running a business, here's how you need to do to make your six figures. All those, it's just littered with that, and you see so much of it. And I'm thinking, is that what it's just? Is that all it's come to now? Is that the masses are pushing that kind of stuff out? And I'm in this sort of wanting to push past that and really get to the I know we're never going to go back to I don't know how long you've been playing on the internet, but I've been on it since the beginning of dawn. I don't think we'll ever go back to the heydays, where it was much more about a place to go and express self-expression, a place to go to connect with people, a place to go to be social, not markety, businessy, make a six-figure this, that, or the other thing, or fix your life, all that stuff, which it seems to be a lot about. And that might be just because people are, yeah. So that's what got me going on it.
Got you. And I mean, there's such a lot in what you've just said. Part of my question is probably almost a very small question, and then we can really get stuck into the topic. But I wonder, and it's interesting what you're just saying about actually we keep getting these, make 6 figures out of your business, and this is how to run your business, and as you say, that kind
Run
of,
your life.
how to run your life. Is that, I get a lot of that too, but is that because we're both, we both own and run our own personal development businesses? Both of us are consultants, both of us do training, both of us are coaches. Is that what we're getting? But maybe other people don't get that.
No, because I don't think it's that. I mean, I don't use the internet in that way for my sort of coaching and consulting and the stuff that I do, because the internet is so much more than that to me. So if you go onto my Twitter account, you'll see nothing that says nothing about coaching, about being a consultant, about running any workshops. You won't see a lick of that on my Instagram. You won't see that really on my Twitter. I mean, you don't really see. I have the odd occasional aspect where something that motivates me that I want to share because it motivated me to think about something differently or what have you. But you wouldn't know I was a coach if you went on my Twitter account.
So that's interesting then. So what, we were going to talk about sort of, or originally we were talking about what it's really about. And actually, what you've said is that originally you felt it was a place where people could go to express themselves. So actually, like the street corner poet, or even, somebody standing on a box and preaching, it was giving people a voice to do that without, having to leave their own home.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
I think it was that, but it was so for me that would be, and I was thinking about this today because I know you kind of said that in your reply to me, and I was thinking whenever I looked at the internet, it wasn't about that I didn't have to leave home. It was that I didn't have to be confined by a small area. I didn't have to be confined by, say, Southam. I had, and I still see the potential of the internet as I can reach out to a global audience. We've got people that listen to us. They're in California, they're in Colorado, they're in Boston, they're in New York. Without the internet, how would I be able to talk to those people without this medium? I
Yes,
would be
fair
able
point.
to talk to people in this local community here. Even if in traditional sense, even if I got on a radio, I still, if I got on, BBC One, I wouldn't be able to, traditional radio, not digital radio now, I wouldn't have been able to reach that same crowd because even radio has a radius. And the internet to me just opened up. It made it expansive. I wasn't confined to, the neighborhood or my small town or whatever. Yeah, so for me, I've always seen it as an expansive medium. There's people that I've been friends with in quotation marks, and I've never met them, but I've known them for years, like 10, 12, 13, 14 years or so. I've known them, and I met them from the comment section. Before there was social media, people used to do the comments on the blogs. So that's where I met a lot of people, were just commenting on each other's blogs, or we actually used to read each other's blogs because we weren't selling, 100 secrets to this or the other thing. You were expressing, or, you were sharing parts of your life in your little corner of the world, or you were giving your views on, it might have been politics, or it might have been some, movies, or it might have been, you were just, like we talk about all the time about the campfire, it was a digital campfire. We were coming together, we were sharing stories of all kinds, and we commented on each other's stuff in the comments, and that's kind of where we kind of met. And of course, social media has kind of expanded that, so that's where people kind of hang out now. But yeah, I've always seen it as an expansive medium, which is why it's kind of why it was playing on my mind that how narrowly it's used now.
So it used to be a place where you could share your thoughts, your reflections, your views, your ideas, and you could share that globally,
Yeah.
and
And you
to
still can do
essentially
that.
to whoever. So exactly. So now you're saying it's so much more narrow. So
I'm saying yes.
how is it more
So
narrow?
it's narrow in the way that people use it. So, people talk about having, and I guess maybe because of the commerce thing came in, that's probably where it all changed, isn't it? Because in the start of it, there wasn't any e-commerce. So you weren't on it to try to make money off of people. When that dime turned, when people said, "Oh, I can figure out how to make money," and then marketeers got involved and all of that sort of stuff. So that sort of changed that dynamic now. And I get it, and I do purposely, I weed out, so, on my Twitter feed, if you're just selling stuff, broadcasting stuff, then I unfollow, because I'm not interested in that. So it does take more, more discretion to follow people whom you want to be in your feed, basically. So, like, I never get it when people say, "Oh, yeah, I hate going on to Twitter or Facebook or wherever because it's just full of vitriol and blah, blah, blah." It's like, well, that's only because that's the people you choose to follow. And it's, it isn't any different from in real life. Would you go and hang out in a room full of people that you don't like and don't want to hear what they have to say? No, you would leave the room. So why follow them on your social platform? Why let that stuff into your feed? So if you're more discerning about who you follow, that determines the quality of your social experience based off of who you kind of follow.
Yeah, I think it's easy for people to forget that they have a choice and that they can unfollow or follow. So yeah.
Yeah, and do the work to go and find the good, because there's loads of good stuff out there. I mean, there's so much stuff on the internet, wild and wonderful stuff to be found and be discovered. But one of the things is, I think, people are inherently lazy. Don't want to go hunt for stuff. I want it to just come to me. I don't want to go look for the good stuff. I'll just see what everybody else is tweeting around or Facebooking around or whatever, and we just keep retweeting the same old stuff. But not a lot of people necessarily go hunting for stuff. Not a lot of people want to get off of Facebook and actually go experience the net. The internet is just Facebook or Twitter to them, and they stay behind these walled gardens. And for Facebook, it's good. That's what they're trying to do, isn't it? All the platforms, all these social platforms like that, they want you to stay on their platform. They don't want you going any place else, because that's how they make money, by having people there staying in the platform so they can serve them up ads. It's the price of the sort of having a free platform. So that's their goal, and the goal is designed to keep you there. I mean, you just look at some of the moves that Facebook's done. I mean, Facebook doesn't want you to leave that platform. It wants to be the internet. So it's now going into podcasting, social audio. You can do live streams there. And you don't ever have to leave Facebook if you don't, which is what they want. That's their goal. But there's so much more that's out there, and I was saying to you, it's the technology that, it's a revolutionary technology with so much potential. But yeah, and harnessing that is amazing to me.
I think, you said before about maybe why people don't go hunting on the internet. And actually, I think for a lot of people, they're just not aware. And you and I talk a lot about the generations, and I suspect some of this is generational. So I think that there is a lot of people who just don't know that there's other stuff on the internet that they can go and find. I think that there is also the issue that a lot of us just don't have time to sit on the internet. And I mean, you and I have very different opinions about this, but if I have half an hour free, I am really unlikely to sit on the internet. I've got things that I want to do that are calling me, that are present in my day-to-day life, or I might want to make a phone call to a particular person. It's very, very rare that I will sit and surf the web for, half an hour.
Do you watch TV?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
But
any
that's
other
a
thing.
choice.
Yeah, if I
But
say
that's the choice.
it's like anything. It isn't a time thing. It's about yeah, well, it's about how you want to use your time. So yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, people say they don't have time, as in they're busy. Not necessarily, because I'm sure people aren't busy 24/7. I'm sure people sit and they'll relax and have a cup of coffee, or people will read a book, or people will watch TV, or I mean, so there is time. It isn't about time. It's about where you want to spend your time. I get that. And again, I get it. If you want to go onto the internet to watch cat videos or just surf mindlessly, yeah, okay. But yeah, no, I mean, some people do. Some people, it's an escapism. I'm going to go on and I'm going to waste hours just surfing through meaningless stuff. Again, that's an aspect of the internet if you want to use it. I mean, I learned so much today on the internet that's just was mind blowing. The stuff that I've learned today on the internet.
Go on, share. Just give us some snapshots.
Well, there was some stuff I was looking at with it's called like linked learning. So it's a program called Obsidian, and it's a way of connecting your notes so that it mimics the same way that your brain kind of works.
Ooh.
And then there's a whole methodology that kind of goes behind that, and it's like, I can't wait to go and start mapping out my brain. But I learned about that. There was something else, Mind Stone I was into, Hype Theory I was into. So then a couple of the guys that I was looking at, so this guy named Lawrence King, and looking at some of his stuff that and it was a lot around I suppose I know the sort of stoic stuff. I know it's a big thing. It's a trend type thing. But yeah, so anyway, there was so the places that when I go on, I don't necessarily go on just to do mindless surfing. I'm usually, because I just love knowledge. And I have a thirst for knowledge. So for me, the internet. So I used to, as a kid, I would walk 5 miles to the library to go and hang out in the library, wandering the stacks, searching for something that was of interest, history, science, anything and everything. So I have a thirst for knowledge. And for me, it's like, what a great thing. I don't have to walk to the library. I have the flipping world of information is right in my hand. Anything I want to learn, know, do, get insight in, it's just then. To me, that's the most amazing thing in the world, is that to have all that, just right here in the palm of my hand. I have access to all that information. And to me, that's incredible. I like, writing, and I like, philosophizing and sharing my thoughts. And I have the means to do that through the internet, to share. People, they write books to share with loads of people who might read their books. So here you have, if you have that inclination to want to share your knowledge, or to share, your art, or, you have you don't have any gatekeepers to keep you from doing that. You have it right there. I've got a flipping, TV studio, radio studio, printing press, all in the phone. So all that potential, I mean, it's just right there, and yeah, it's just amazing that it's there. And yeah, so I'm I'm on my lost in my reverie about
You are.
because
And
it's
I got
it's so
it is.
great. It's just
It,
amazing.
it is great. There is everything is there. And I apologize. I was slightly distracted because I saw this really good looking fella out of my office window. And I thought, oh, and then I realized it's my husband who'd popped round to my neighbors to
Yeah.
return something. And just because of the way the houses are, he has to walk the long way around. It's like, it's nice to know I still find my husband a good looking fella after all
Ah,
these
very
years.
good.
However, what I was going to say was in your reverie about the internet, it made me think because actually there's me saying I would never just sit and surf on the internet. And then I went, hang on a minute. Actually, what I would do though is I would sit and surf on YouTube. Now, I will look for things consciously that I'm interested in, but I tend to do that within YouTube because on YouTube you can just access so much, and exactly as you've said, any kind of knowledge. So if I want to do any kind of self-development, I could just go to the TED channel and find a TED talk that's just interesting. If there's something specific that I want to know about, such as I don't know, clearing the mind, let's say, then I can search clearing the mind on YouTube and I will get a whole range of opportunities to learn about clearing the mind. If you look at the moment, my YouTube channel is actually, as in my YouTube viewing channel, is quite well curated because I go on there and I'll be like, watch later, watch later, watch later. And then I'll go on. And now I've got all these things that I've obviously chosen at some point, which ranges from the in-depth self-development stuff that we talk about, philosophy, to dog training, and I've got just and wardrobe curation and just this whole range of things. And I go on there and I love it because you're right, I've
Exactly.
curated it.
Yeah.
But that's specifically within YouTube. And I think it was you that told me that YouTube now is kind of one of the biggest search engines.
Well, it's the biggest search engine,
It's
isn't it?
just awesome. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of YouTube, and yes, I can spend a lot of time, and I can now watch it on my telly, which is even better because now it's bigger, so I get to see it even bigger.
And that's it. That's the aspect. YouTube sits on the internet. It is part of the internet, isn't it? So it's a visual, but you can just as well, find podcasts if you prefer to listen to stuff. If you prefer to read stuff, you can go and find, some people, I was working with a lady the other day and she hates watching videos. So she's like, give me something to read. So even stuff like, I'm like, I'll make a quick screencast for you. No, I hate videos. Doesn't, that way of learning something totally doesn't appeal to her. Wants to have something that can be read and printed out and touched or whatever. So, but it's there. So if you want words, there's loads of written articles. There's loads of things to watch on YouTube in terms of videos.
There's loads of things to listen to on YouTube. Exactly. Podcasts, audiobooks that have been read onto YouTube. I don't know how that works from a copyright point of view, but actually I'm not hugely visual. So I used to listen, way before the internet, I would listen to audiobooks or self-development things on cassette tapes. And that was great. And I could listen to it whilst I was ironing or doing some kind of not quite meaningless task, but mindless task, if you like, where I didn't have to think. And then I'd be soaking in all of this information. And now on YouTube, and this is the thing, is actually the maybe 50% of what I watch, I'm not watching at all. Way before the internet.
Sorry.
It's all right, because we're live, that's going to come through. But yeah, so I would listen to audio, or the things that I listen to on YouTube, I'm listening to, I'm not actually watching the video, and that they may not be any kind of visual. It may just be a, kind of like a placeholder, I suppose I would call it. But anyway, yeah. No, I love YouTube, you can tell.
And it's just one of these things. So that's what, when I'm saying the internet, I'm saying that infrastructure, the World Wide Web, again, we only talk about the web or stroke, and but there is the, other parts of the internet, the dark web and all these other places that, that you can go. The internet or the World Wide Web is just a fraction of what's out there. In fact, the guy that I guess invented the World Wide Web, he's looking at making a Web 2.0 because he, like me, feels that, it's just gone a whole nother place. It's been usurped by advertising and, and that kind of marketing spiel, and it's just become some means to get you to come on this platform so I can harvest your data and sell it to the highest bidder. So he's creating another internet.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But going back to what we were, our very original point was what's the web really about? And we were talking, and I kind of see the world a bit like, I suppose almost a bit like a spider's web. So if you kind of imagine everything that's on the ground, as it were, almost lifted up, and then you think about spider's web and how everything is interconnected. So it allows us, like you were saying earlier, at this expanded connection, expanded reach. It's that expanded connection and awareness where we can connect with all these different people. So maybe, in times gone past when maybe people were into things that nobody in their community was interested in, then now people can find other people who are interested in the same things. So they feel part of a community. It may not be a physical community, but like you were saying earlier, you've got virtual friends, people who you have never met, but you've interacted with on the web. And so, there is a huge amount, I would say, that's positive about the World Wide Web, the way that it is now. Equally, there's also a lot that isn't so positive. There's lots of trolling and and stuff like that, which I mean I really struggle with. I just don't see why anybody would behave like that. Is a point. It just seems pointless to me.
Well, it's it's a microcosm of the human beings. So I mean, I guess it gives some people, because of the anonymity, they can be the horrible, wretched human being that they actually are. They can't do it in person because, they get beat down or whatever. But, give me an anonymous account on, like, YouTube is, infamous for that. If you read through the comments and stuff, there's a lot of very mean-spirited people. And, as you say, the trolls and stuff, like, who've got, that's their thing. They like going and just causing misery. I don't know. I mean, but that's a that isn't the internet. That's the human being, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And then I think that for me, that it is it is the. So when I say virtual friends, they're no more just, I can't physically touch them, but they are still human, and we still have an intellectual connection, an emotional connection. So we're connected. I just can't physically reach out and touch you, but you're still a human being, and I'm interacting with you as a human being on a human level and doing all those sorts of things that we might do as humans. So, how you are in real life, you kind of bleed out into how you are in sort of cyberspace. You are the person that you are, whether you're online or offline. You are you. It's your humanity bleeds through, regardless of what you're doing. So yeah, and I think it does give you that opportunity to connect with other like-minded people who are into the same things that you are, that you might not have a lot of them in your small little town or even your big town, but it gives you all the space to kind of congregate, to be together, to find other people who are who are like you or in your tribe, or who have the same hobby thing that you have. And so you can bring everybody together. I think it makes it dangerous in some sense, that we've seen a lot of the the political landscape of the world. I think some thoughts probably would have been confined in people's head or their really close circle, but now, just in the same manner that you just said, I can go find all those other people across the world that hold that same belief, and now we've got strength or power, because we got all of us around the world that has that same belief, so I can amass power then.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I hadn't sort of thought about that, but things like signing petitions, and so quite often somebody will send me a link, or a link comes up about signing a petition that we can then present to Parliament here in the UK. And actually, how would those things have happened before? People would write on a clipboard, and the clipboard would get passed around, and you kind of, it was as far as you could get your clipboard. Whereas now, you can have thousands of signatures on a petition within minutes. It's quite phenomenal, really.
You could start a revolution. Think
Well, yes.
October Spring and all these, the Arab Spring, think of those, start a revolution, start these riots, in moments. In fact, I always found it, again, one of the things that, that was a song go, things that make you go, So when we had all those riots back here, a few years back, the London, I think there was one even close as Birmingham to me in Edinburgh. The people that got people stealing stuff got less time than people who were organizing the next place to go and be disruptive. Got less time. You got more time for doing that, because that's more dangerous to a government, isn't it? If you can organize and get all these people massed to do. They didn't care about the fact that you smashed in the window and were stealing TVs and stuff. Who cares about that?
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, have a look at it. Which is kind of, when you think about the logic of that, you're thinking, okay, so this dude, because he went on to Facebook and say, hey, be at this corner at this time to do this, it came down hard on those folks, harder than folks who were stealing stuff from stores or things like that. So interesting, but that tells you just something about, governments. So we won't go down that rabbit hole.
No, I don't think we should. I think that's a good choice.
So you won't go down that one.
What are the other kind of questions that you posed at the beginning? When we were talking, so we're going to talk about what the internet's really about, what it can do. What else? I can't remember what else you said at the beginning, which...
Yeah, I didn't write them down. This was just the things that were kind of floating into my head. I'm just, what do you use so have you thought about the potential that you hold in your hand in terms of the impact that you can have on the world in relationship to the internet?
Yes. Yeah. And if you think back to our previous conversations, that's why I didn't really grow my business or do anything with my business, because I was terrified, in the early days of putting anything out on the internet, because I wasn't sure if what I was writing was actually reflecting what I really thought, or, so I wasn't sure if I was eloquent enough. I also wasn't sure that my thoughts were necessarily mature enough to share. And by that, I don't mean that I'm immature. I mean that my processing, my understanding of the world, I didn't know how it would benefit people. I couldn't see that. I figured that everything that's been done has been done already. In fact, I was writing a piece on Brené Brown today, and she's done a lot about vulnerability. And the irony of the fact that she's writing about vulnerability, and how when we make ourselves vulnerable and we're comfortable to be vulnerable, actually we will get so much more out of life. So the irony of discussing that while saying, I couldn't understand what I would have to offer that isn't already out there.
Yeah, again, a reflection of you as a human being, not necessarily the internet, isn't it? And
absolutely. I'm sort of 15 years on or 20 years on, I'm kind of, like, wow, imagine if we'd have, you and I did a podcast, we did a series of 6 podcasts, what, about 6-7 years ago? Imagine if we'd have continued that on at that time. But I thought I would run out of things to say, which anybody who knows me will laugh quite hysterically probably at that one. But, I want it to be of value. I want what we share to be of interest to people. And
it's not a new story, that. Think of all the people who die with their books never written, or their song that they've never shared, because it makes you vulnerable. So if I write an essay and I put it, soon as you hit publish, it's out there for the world to see. And a lot of times it's very personal, so, your identity is in this thing, you put your thing in there, but once it's out there, then you got to deal with whatever comes back. And so, yeah, you are exposing a part of yourself when you create and then you put it out there for other people to see your work or say it sucks, or any number of things. You just have no idea. So sometimes the safer thing, the comfort zone, is, well, as long as it stays in my notebook, I've written it and I liked it and it's good. And that's enough. But as soon as you make it public, well, then, it's out there now. And then, I think sometimes, you can put stuff out there, and it seems like no one's listening, because, that's the other thing. You think, oh, well, it's going, it's global, it's on Twitter or it's on the blog, and why aren't anybody reading it? Why is there nobody reading my stuff or commenting on it? Well, think about how many videos get posted on YouTube in a day.
Yeah, do you know the stats for that? Because that would be quite interesting. I don't know what the stats are.
Google knows it. How many,
I know you'll be off doing that now.
Yeah,
so
how many videos published?
As I say, whilst you're checking that, if I just think actually now, so, we've all been having meetings on, using the internet, haven't we? So now we've got these virtual meetings. Everybody's been able to work from home, which again, if the internet hadn't been taking off, we wouldn't have Wi-Fi to the house in the same way. Today I was delivering, I was facilitating and delivering training via the internet. So I wasn't just talking like I'm doing now, but I was sharing videos. I was able, not really, because I was using a platform that's not very good at this, but put people into breakout rooms, basically to take the physical training experience when you turn up at a hotel and, there's kind of nice rooms and nice toilets and nice food and breakout rooms and flip charts and all the rest. We're now doing all of this online, and all of that is down to the internet, because it's all got it's just so amazing, the opportunities. You can really do pretty much anything that you want to do in real life, physical life, virtually.
Yeah, and I think just like with any piece of technology, there's the people who are, who knew the old days, and they think, oh, we got to get into the classroom, and they want to hang on to that because that's what they know. And there's others who are a little bit more forward thinking, and so you have that, where things are kind of seesawing between hanging on to the old and bringing into the new, and somewhere in between. Because I find that, and it's interesting, even like now with this return to work thing, in lots of instances, there actually isn't any reason to return back to an office. Because, for a whole year, over a year, people have been working from home and working from home successfully, working remotely. But, the amount of, and I shared a thing on LinkedIn, I think, there's some businesses that are just desperate for this 19th to come to make everybody come back to work and get in the office. But then also, it's a funny dynamic now because, people who are in the job hunting phase, one of the things that they're demanding of employers is that they only have to come into the office maybe twice. Basically, they're demanding hybrid working, and they want to know what the hybrid working policy is. And so employers are having to accommodate that or shift that or risk losing talent because people think, wow, yeah. And I think about some of the stuff I do. Like that's 2 hours of time you can have back. Everybody's always crying about time that you gain back by not having to commute. Especially if you go to a space where you sit down behind a computer and that's where you work most of the day, is behind the computer. And it's like, well, hell, you could just walk to your bedroom. Anyway, there are 500 hours of fresh video posted on YouTube per minute. So it works out to 30,000 hours of new content per hour.
Oh my word.
720,000 hours of new content per day. So when you make a video and you think, well, how come no one's watching my video? We just assume that you push a button and then everybody's looking at it.
Well, I think we know why now, don't
So
we?
your
That's
video,
incredible.
we
500 new hours per minute.
500 hours of fresh video per minute.
Wow.
So,
Oh, that's mind-blowing.
So if
That's
you make a
absolutely mind-blowing.
30-minute video,
Which will take you about 6 hours to do.
and that's
yeah.
going to get lost in the sea of 720,000 hours of new content per day that's going on. So, getting someone to watch your video that you made is no easy, it's a mean feat to do.
It really is, isn't it?
And you've got to be, and I guess it forces you to have to provide some kind of value because, what you're asking people to do, like even with this podcast, what we're asking people to do, you mentioned, at the beginning of this segment that, I don't have time to, I'm busy to be going on the internet and doing some stuff.
So, I don't think that was actually what I said.
What did you say?
So
you said you were
what
too
I
busy.
actually said, no, I didn't. I said, if I had half an hour, then would I choose to what would I choose to spend it? Well, I wouldn't.
The internet.
And originally I said, I wouldn't just surf the web with it.
Yeah.
However, what then I realized was, but I would play on YouTube.
Yeah. But now, hold on a second. But stop at your first thing before you retracted it. And because what we are asking people to do is think about it. This thing, and it's, we go, we've been on here. How long have we been?
Nearly 50 minutes.
Nearly 50 minutes. What we'd be asking someone to do is to give up 50 minutes of their time, 50 minutes of their life, or hour and a half of their life where we go the whole 90 minutes. That is a big ask.
Right? It is.
Considering, I got my own hobbies that I want to do. I might have some TV I want to watch, or I might want to read a book, or there's other programs that are on that I want to listen to. So it's a huge ask that we ask of people when we ask them to consume our content, whatever it is, listen to our podcast, watching your video, reading your article, a huge ask. So, I guess us as creators, one of the things that, we have to, hold ourselves account to is, what value are we providing? Are we providing value? Is the thing that I'm producing valuable enough for someone to give up their time to consume it? And, being grateful for the fact that because that's a big thing. If someone sat down and they watch and they listen to your stuff, they have given you 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour of their time, of their life they spent on you, which is huge. And so this is why this whole thing about building relationships onto internet becomes huge then, because it's not, you've got, just like with buying, you buy from people like and trust, and all of that human relationship stuff that, that you do. It's like, okay, well, if you're building relationships with people, then, so like for you, so if some strange, so if I had to, get to spend time talking to you or to some total stranger, then of course, I want to hang with you because I know you. So, if I had to, so, given that choice, it's like, okay, yeah, well, I'll go, hang with my friends versus, go hang out with somebody I have no idea who they are or don't know them from Adam. And that's the same thing we ask people on a, whenever we're getting to being content creators. It's like, hey.
But at some point, you are likely to go, okay, actually, yeah, you kind of have a bit of an itch and go, let me just see what else is out there. But you are right. It's a huge commitment and it's a huge ask. And I think that the thing is to be clear about what is it that we're offering? Why are we doing this? What are we sharing? And if we continue with this in this way tonight, and I know we will talk more about this when we obviously stop broadcasting, but this feels to me like a return to the original incarnation of over a year ago, when it was about creating an interesting conversation, something that was stimulating, something that made you think, but didn't ask too much of you. So a bit like having, as you said, you talk a lot about the campfire. I talk about having a dinner party where you have an interesting conversation around the table. And that's really what we were trying to do, or what we are trying to do with what was the wisdom experience, what is now Digital Calm.
Yeah, so I mean, entertainment, information, entertainment type stuff takes all kinds, isn't it? So we've always had talk radio, which is here's a subject, and you're listening to people have a conversation about it, but you're almost like the what do they call it? The sort of fourth wall. If you're in the audience, as in you're part of the conversation, and of course, we've got chat and stuff, so people are always welcome to participate. So I think we've always, regardless of whether we were playing music or talking, it's the conversation bit's always been the same. I know we took with it when we do it on Mixcloud, we have the interludes, the musical interludes, but the conversation is a value add to that aspect. Is the conversation that people are sitting down and listening to a convo. And getting people involved in the conversation. So, and having conversations with people in this forum and outside of this forum. So, I think one of the things that that we'll continue to work on is continuing the conversation beyond just this space. So the conversation continues, and that way everybody's learning together. It becomes a social learning aspect. We're contributing to the conversation, and everybody's perspective gets expanded in that. And again, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody. Some people like to just listen to conversations, and it's comforting, and and it helps them to explore things in their own head as they're listening to it. Other people prefer to be fed some stuff. So I'm going to come on and I want to hear you transfer some knowledge, and that's some people like that gig as well.
So talking about expanding perspectives,
Yeah.
you said something earlier about the World Wide Web only being a small thingamywhatsits. And now the dark web I've kind of heard of, but I just assumed that the dark web was part of the World Wide Web. So tell me about the other things, because you might as well expand my knowledge whilst we're on.
Yeah, but that's probably about the extent of. I don't know that I can go to any great detail other than to say that if you're looking at an iceberg, the World Wide Web is just a tiny bit of it. The dark web is a next thing down, and I don't even know the potential of the one below that. So which again, our guy that invented it is getting ready to create another one, to hope to return it back to the original idea of community and connections, and minus the advertisers and the people wanting to harvest your data. And you can see it kind of move like that anyway with Apple, isn't it? Now, I know you don't have an iPhone, do you? But in the App Store, which one of this, there's a bunch of people that are pissed off about it, that you can now decide whether you want apps to harvest your data. So you get, as a consumer, get to decide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so whenever you go into the App Store now and you get an app, and if they're trying to take your data, you get a prompt and says, do you want to allow this to harvest your data? Yes or no, which is why you see Facebook is taking out big ads in the New York Times and places, but saying it's going to hurt small business owners, because that's who Facebook sells that data to, so they can market to you. But if everybody's opting out of letting these apps harvest their data, then that impacts on Facebook's business to sell ads and that kind of thing. But Apple has taken that kind of stance, kind of angering some of the big conglomerates who make their money off of your data, aren't happy about that.
That's interesting. And it kind of reminds me, and I know it's not the same, but when I replaced my Kindle a few years ago, you can buy the tablet, so Kindle Fire, and you could pay an extra, I can't remember if it was 10 or 20 pounds to buy one without advertising. Whereas if you don't pay that, then every time you turn it on, an advert comes up and
Mm.
so on and so forth. Really interesting, because I sort of, I mean, I obviously thought about it at the time, but then you don't, it doesn't stay with you. But actually, yeah, maybe it's time to become a little more conscious again about, what's going on the web, what I'm doing, what's coming my way.
Well, yeah, well, I think most people don't. Most people don't want to, yeah. I guess I should stop saying it, but we are inherently, lazy. I don't want to do. I don't be thinking about that stuff. I just want the light bulb. I don't care how the electricity light thing works. I just want to flip the switch and the light comes on. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know who invented electricity, how it works, how does the energy get from me flicking this switch over there? Don't care. I'll hit the light switch, and that's how a lot of people, want to consume their stuff. I don't care about it. I just want to go on and talk to my friends on Facebook, and that's the easiest place for me to go to talk to my friends. I don't really care about it. So you have that, but what people then messes all the other stuff that's hidden underneath, that's designed to manipulate you, that's taking advantage of your data. These are kind of things that you don't necessarily pay attention to. Yeah, you just don't. I mean, like, don't pay attention to the fact that how Facebook wants to be the interface. It wants to be the like AOL was or CompuServe was. It want your access to the internet is through Facebook is what they want. So in fact they're trying to provide you all the tools so you never have to leave Facebook. So if you want podcasts, they're now giving you podcasts. They've just signed a deal with Spotify. You're going to be able to play Spotify within Facebook. They've got their equivalent to Clubhouse, so you can have your live audio. Of course, they challenged YouTube by making it so that they can have videos, and you can have live videos, and you can just be in that platform and never come out.
Do you know what's really interesting in all of this? I've just realized that I have an unconscious bias. So I'm heavily into organizational development, and organizational development is about the kind of the behavior and the culture of organizations and how they change or don't. And I quite often have this conversation with people, and when we're talking about businesses as an organization, then I'm very clear that an organization that is a business needs to stay in business. So it needs to make money, and it needs to continue to make money to be of, I suppose, ultimately be of service, whatever that service happens to be. But what we're talking about is inherently actually, and I know we've not particularly talked about it, but I'm thinking, wow, Facebook is actually a business. And
It
I
is 100%.
know it's a business, but I didn't know it was a business.
You don't
and
think of it as a business, but
you don't
it
think
is.
exactly. I don't think of it as a business. And so I'm almost, for want of a better term, almost offended that that's what it's doing, and it's trying to funnel me down where it wants to funnel me down, and da 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 da. Oh, that's definitely given me food for thought, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? I mean, and I think people do forget that. And someone was raising the point that, it's so the price. So you think it's free, but it's not free because the price is your data. But because Facebook and Twitter and other platforms will make the argument that they're providing this great tool to you for free. I'm not charging you a dime. But underneath the subtext is I'm not charging you a dime, but if you didn't read all that fine print in there, what you've actually agreed to let me do is harvest your data, and I sell it off to advertisers who then try to sell you their wares. But that's how I make my billions, and that's why I can provide this thing for free. And there's a contingent of people like, well, it's like you, like with the Kindle. Well, I'd rather pay a fee to use the platform if that means you don't get to harvest my data and put me all these ads. Let me pay a fee so I don't have to do that. And I know Twitter's just rolled out a version of that. So they've got this sort of Twitter Plus thing that you could sign up for and do just that. So I think it's fascinating. One, as you say, I mean, we're thinking about the internet. It is there's a lot of platforms on the internet. There's a lot of aspects of the internet that could be used, and it's a force for good, and it can be a force for bad. You can use it to waste time. You can use it to get yourself a PhD.
Yes.
No, you can. I mean, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
you can.
it's both. So it comes back to individual responsibility and how you choose to use it. And we haven't even touched on this whole idea of the echo chamber, because that's the other thing that's inherently kind of dangerous about your sort of standard, like your sort of, Facebooks of the world, and to a lesser extent, your sort of Twitter and your TikToks. They've got these algorithms, and the algorithms, because I want you to stay on the platform. So the more longer you're on it, the better for me, and the more money that I can make. So I'm going to serve you up the things that that you like, and I'm going to keep just serving you more of that, based off of your surfing habits or what have you, because I want to keep you on. So, but that if you're a person who is looking to expand beyond your bubble, if you don't actively try and extend out of your bubble, all you get is what that platform wants you to see, which it knows that, oh yeah, put one of those videos on their feed, they'll watch it. Guaranteed, because they know that how long you spend watching particular videos.
Yes.
And so they just keep serving you that to which they know that you'll watch, which will then keep you onto the platform, which then they can, make more money from you. Even us. I mean, if we were to monetize this podcast, if we wanted to make money from, from third parties, what they will want to know is, what's the download rate? What are your listening hours? How many, like I can look on here and I can see that our average watch time for people that have sort of come on, I guess, and left, 15 minutes and 35 seconds. So, if an advertiser would be like, oh, the people come, you got hundreds or whatever, and they're hanging out for X amount of time. Yeah, okay. Can you plug and you got the right demographic, can you plug my product, and I'll pay you X amount of pounds to do that, because, you've got the audience that I want, that's in my demographic, to sell this particular thing to. Hence why I know a lot of people do the Patreon model who are independent creators. So, you can do the, where then the people who are getting value from what you do, then, they pay so that you can continue doing what you do, providing value for them, and not have to do the advertising route and the, try and make my stuff accessible to this audience, and pushing some product from some sponsor. So it's an interesting. So for me, I guess if I was, where my head is, it's such a powerful tool. Is the thing I guess I would leave people with, to say, to actively think about. And I know I mentioned to you in my text about Gutenberg and that press, and how that piece of technology opened up the world. And here we have another piece of technology that has just created a world of opportunity that's just right there in front of you, whatever it is, whether you want to, if you're an entrepreneur, or you want to, create a business, or, you're a writer or an artist or a musician, or all those things. You have that ability without having to have a gatekeeper to be and stand in your way.
Yeah, interesting.
Cool. So, any final words from you? What's your sort of takeaways?
No, well, I think, as you said, I think it's this reflection of society. And I think it can kind of enhance the good, and it can magnify the not so good, shall we say. But I think fundamentally, if we get out of it what we put into it. But I think we need to remember that we get to choose. We get to choose where we go. We get to choose what we look at. We get to choose.
Before you conclude, because you still have a young family, what is your relationship to, are you strict with their access to the internet? Do they get free reign of the internet?
Well, they're not that young now, so they're kind of 16 and 18. So yes, they do whatever they do. And yeah. So I know you've just slipped that one in there.
Well, no, I did, because it just dawned on me. I mean, because that was an aspect of it. Because I remember, when my kids were younger, it was because my imprinting was, hey, be outside, get outside, go climb a tree. But the reality of their world was a little bit different than the reality of my world growing up, and so the tendency was, wow, man. Because I didn't sit around looking at no screens when I was that age. It was like,
there weren't screens when you were that age.
Exactly. It's like,
when we were that age.
But again, my imprinting was, that the thing to be doing is the sun is out, get outside, stay outside until, it's starting to get dark and come home. Because that's what I did as a kid. Whereas their world is a different world. But and then I know, again, there's always the backlash, isn't it? So what are they missing? Their development is this, or they're not learning how to socialize. All these things are the counter argument. And then there's the counter argument to the counter argument. As I said, I think I mentioned to you before, when when I was thinking about how much time Devin spent playing video games. But then when I took the time to go and hang with his friends for one, to see, what's actually going on here. And then you realize, actually, listening to the problem solving taking place, listening to the coordination taking place, listening to how they have to interact with themselves and achieve an objective, you think, well, heck, we spend a lot of money training people on communications and problem solving and making teamwork, and here these kids haven't had any training, but they figured it out, and I can't even keep up with them, because they are moving and making decisions really fast. I'm thinking, my slow little brain is and so it took getting in that world and thinking, okay, well, hold on a second, what is actually going on here for them. And so I guess you always get that. I guess it'll be, well, I guess that every generation has its different challenges. I'm just thinking, the millennials aren't so young now. People keep throwing around millennials like they're young, but they're in 40s now.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the key things is that we have brought both of our children up, hopefully, to be able to make conscious choices and to explore, but also to do that knowing that we're always here to have a conversation with. And certainly with one of our sons in particular, we've had a lot of conversations about what's appropriate on the web and how people act, and lots to do with Discord servers and that kind of stuff. So we've not restricted what they've done, although they may see it differently, but we've not really restricted what they've done or where they go. But what we have done is very much actively encourage a conversation and a dialogue with us.
So you're much better parent than me. I never did any of that.
But again, we were, so there's a couple of things you have to remember. We're a few years behind you, so therefore the web was that little, more developed, but also,
less
because
developed back in my days.
Exactly. So less developed. And also we had to be conscious parents, because of one of our son's needs. So therefore we were a lot more, with everything, we've had to think and behave more consciously than most parents have to.
Yeah, and it's and I think, if you got older parents, as I said, my thing was just a generational thing, but I'm wondering, like, as millennials are, what I call digital natives, as the digital natives are now starting to have kids, how will they raise, what's going to be the conversation that they have with their kids, being digital natives and then having kids now? I'm wondering what that dynamic's going to sort of look like.
Time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I think that was an interesting conversation from my point of view. Anyway, that was what was been on my mind, that was in my head, was, so if I was, again, I think my encouragement to people would be, to get out and explore and to really think about the opportunities that lie before you, and not just to accept what you're given, or just to follow the herd, or just to really think about the influence and the things that you can do with these platforms. Don't just be a consumer, but be a creator. Do some stuff with this power. Although everything is designed to try and make you just be a consumer and sit back and do nothing but consume. Be wary of that.
Absolutely. And I would encourage people to put comments, give us, share your thoughts. What do you think the internet's really about, and how's it evolving, and how do you use it? And actually, have we started to, or have we shared something that maybe thinks about you using it or approaching it in a different way? That'd be great to know. So yeah, please leave us comments and come and hang out on our Tumblr page as well.
Yeah, well, and this will be active, so even beyond this live stream, so this will be a YouTube video, so the comments, of course, will always be open, so just continue the conversation right here in the chat, man, or follow us on Twitter or wherever else you kind of hang out, I guess. Wherever you hang, I'll be there.
Yes, you would.
I am there, so however you want it. Comms. All right, that's it for us. For any of you who are long-time listeners of us, doesn't really matter what the name of it is, but just the two of us, because that's what actually really matters. Be interested to get your thoughts on, us doing
this work for you, basically. Yeah. What did you like? What do you miss, already? Give us some feedback.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
All right.
Bye. Okay.